Okay, this is English 101, Week 5, Part 12, and it is the final part of this lecture series situation. So, um, at the bottom of page 10 is one of Socrates' biggest and most important points, and I underlined it on my copy and everything. He who is not newly initiated, or who has become corrupted, does not easily rise out of this world. Um, does not easily rise out of this world to the sight of true beauty in the other. He looks only at the earthly namesake, and instead of being awed at the sight of her, is given over to pleasure. This is one of, I'm going to change pages while I tell you about this. This is really Socrates' key point. This is his big point. He says that when you see someone beautiful that you're in love with, he says, what's really happening is your soul is being reminded of a higher heavenly beauty, a pure beauty of the gods and the soul and whatever. But he says most people don't remember, like, because again, the soul got a glimpse of these things, but then you forget, right? He has this idea that sort of before you're born, you learn these things, and then when you were born here, you forget them. So for Socrates, um, he says that people forget. Well, what happens when they forget? Well, if you forget and you think that when you see someone beautiful, the correct way to do it is the good horse remembers that the reason you're in love is because the beauty you see on earth reminds you of higher heavenly beauty. That's the kind of thing. Higher heavenly beauty is the kind of thing you should be spending time with. It makes your soul grow. Um, but the bad horse just sees sort of earthly beauty and it's just like, I want to fuck that person. And that's a distraction from the higher heavenly beauty. Couple of things to point out here. The kind of higher heavenly beauty that you're supposed to be reminded of is like the beauty of art or the beauty of mathematics or the beauty of chess or the beauty of symphony music, or right, it's that kind of thing. But the earthly beauty is related more, is the bad horse thinks of just like lust, and earthly things. Now, I don't know if I think I mentioned this already, but I may be mentioning it again. But you may have heard the phrase platonic friendship. Platonic friendship is when people are friends but they're not having sex. So, for example, if you're dating somebody and then you have this other friend and they're like, like, let's say you're a woman and you're dating, this is very hetero, but like, let's say you're a woman and you're dating some guy, and then your best friend is also a dude. And your boyfriend might be like, "What's up with this guy? Like, or this I'm jealous." And you'd be like, "Oh, you don't have to be jealous. It's a platonic friendship because a platonic friendship is a friendship where no sex is involved." The word platonic comes from Plato, right? It's Plato, platonic, Plato. Because a platonic friendship is one where you're not having sex. It's called platonic because Plato was kind of against sex. He sort of thought it was a bad thing. It's the bad horse. It's taking you away from higher heavenly things and towards sort of fleshly things. And his whole point is that you're supposed to feed the good horse with a sort of higher heavenly thing. So the bad horse, like a brutish beast, he rushes on to enjoy and beget, right? The bad horse wants to have sex with the person. But they're supposed to, the whole point is for Socrates, you're supposed to be thinking of higher heavenly, philosophical, intelligence-based soul things. He consorts with wantonness, that's lust, and is not afraid or ashamed of pursuing pleasure in violation of nature. So this is, again, he's talking about sex, but like even perverse sex. But he whose initiation is recent and who has been the spectator of many glories in the other world is amazed when he sees anyone having a godlike face or form, which is the expression of divine beauty. And at first a shudder runs through him, and again the old awe steals over him. And then looking upon the face of his beloved as of a god, he reverences him. And if he were not afraid of being thought a downright madman, he would sacrifice to his beloved as to the image of a god. So for Plato, um, you fall in love, and that sort of your bad horse wants to have sex with this person, and that's it. And the good horse is thinking about these, that is reminded of these sort of larger philosophical subjects. Um, One way of thinking about this for our own day and age is that, like, there's a lot of cool things you can learn in school. Are you going to use the things you're learning in school to grow as a human being? Or when you look at the things you learn in school, are you just thinking about how they could make you more money? that's that's why I teach this, because you're learning the same thing. Remember, for Socrates, two people could fall in love with someone and have totally different reactions, right? And you can fall in love and just be like, I'm going to fuck this person. And then you can fall in love and you can be like, wow, this person is inspiring me to be a better human being. But it's the same thing with your education. Um, because you're spending time with professors who are teaching you things that are really important to them, um, things that they've studied for years, decades. What are you going to use it for? Are you going to use it to know thyself? Are you going to use it to grow as a person? Are you going to use it to enlarge your mind, your soul? Um, are you going to use it to sort of make yourself bigger? Or is it just a pathway to money? You get the grade, you get the degree, you get the job, and who cares if you have the skills to do the job? You got the degree, you got the money, you're done. It's a way of thinking about education. And Socrates, I mean, again, Plato founded a school. Socrates was a teacher. This is very much about education. And when we get to Unit 3, it's going to continue to be about education as we talk about what kinds of things Socrates. Because remember, they're trying to persuade you. Plato was trying to persuade you to his point of view, and Lysias was trying to persuade you to a point of view. These are thesis-driven essays like I ask you to do in school. So the question becomes, if school teaches you how to write persuasive essays, are you going to use this power to kind of investigate higher heavenly things, to think about goodness and truth and beauty and justice and temperance? Or are you just going to use the skills you got in school to like make money and show off? Lysias is a guy who wants to make money and show off. Socrates is a guy who is thinking about larger philosophical kind of things. And that's why I teach you this. One of the screwed up things that happens when I teach this is I think I accidentally give my students the impression that I'm like really anti-sex, because Plato is very anti-sex. But it's not just about sex. It's about what are you going to do with your mind? Are you going to use your mind to sort of focus on earthly things like sex, power, and money? Or is there something else to life involving the mind and sort of these kinds of larger philosophical stuff? And that is why I teach this. Okay, cool. Let's finish this paragraph and then be done. Then while he gazes on him, like when you see someone very beautiful, there's a sort of reaction, and the shudder passes into an unusual heat and perspiration, for as he receives the effluence of beauty through the eyes, the wings moisten and warms, and as he warms, the parts of which the wing grew, out of which had been hitherto closed and rigid, and prevented the wing from shooting forth, are melted, and as nourished under streams and as nourishment streams upon him, the lower end of the wings begins to swell and grow from the upward roots, and the growth extends under the whole soul, for once the whole soul was winged. A lot of people, when they fall in love, it's almost painful. It hurts. Socrates has an explanation for why it hurts when you fall in love, because your soul is growing wings. And if you've ever been around a baby that's growing teeth and the teeth are pushing through the gums, it hurts, and the baby yells and screams when the baby is teething. Socrates thinks when you fall in love, you experience a kind of mental pain, like heart pain. It almost hurts to be in love. It's painful to be in love. It's troubling to be in love because your soul is growing, and it is hard. It's growing wings where there used to not be wings. And that is a painful process. So Socrates is using a kind of mythological way of thinking to explain what's going on with love. And it's wacky. It's ridiculous. It's like being like, oh, the gods are angry, so they're shaking the earth, and that's what an earthquake is. But he is still thinking it's not just that. It's not just goofy random mythology. It's thinking about what the value of mental activity is. Beauty, truth, and goodness. What are you doing with your mind? And that's something that affects all my students because they're college students. So what you're going to do with your education is very similar to the choices Socrates says that you have when you're trying to decide what to do when you're in love. And motorcycles! Okay, anyway. guys, I think that's it. That's the end of week 5. We've done it. I love you all. If you made it this far, you almost certainly did not make it this far. But if you made it this far, I love you for getting this deep into the thing. I'm so fucking cold. Oh my God. Why did I not bring a jacket? Why did I think I could come out here with this outfit? Okay, I will see you guys next week.